In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can go from your first sale in your online store all the way to 10K, 15K, and 100K months. And it doesn't matter whether you've chosen any of these paths over here, whether you're dropshipping, printing on demand, branded dropshipping on brand. Those are all different paths to creating an online store. All of them can work, but I'm going to walk you through the things that you need to do so that you can actually scale to 100K months. Cool. So here you've got the different paths of e-com that you can take. You can obviously do drop shipping, which is when you get products from China or from other countries anyway. You don't have a warehouse and then you ship them directly to the consumer. So someone places an order on the website, you connect your store to your supplier and your supplier ships that order. That can work really well. Typically you do have many problems. Most of them are related to shipping times and things like that. They obviously have the lowest barriers to entry and you have really low margins. So that can be problematic in itself, but the good thing is that the scale of that is unlimited. You can scale very quickly, very hard. You then have print on demand products, which are kind of drop shipping, but for clothing, which is exactly the same thing. There's honestly, I think print on demand is better than classic drop shipping, because I feel like there's better suppliers for that ship your products very quickly. And fashion, you can kind of get away with charging really high prices without really having a competitive advantage. It's just about the design. You then have branded drop shipping, which is a mix of the classic drop shipping with slapping a brand onto it. So you build kind of a brand identity around it, but you're still drop shipping. Main problem with that is purely margins. And then you've got your own brand, which is the path that I've taken. And honestly, the hardest one, I think for people starting out, it really is worth doing drop shipping first, then going to branded drop shipping, and then developing that into a brand. It's probably where you're going to find the most scale and the easiest scale, really. And then the first problem that you're going to have is, how do I get people to go to my store? Which is the traffic problem. Two ways to solve that. The first one is free organic traffic, which is not what I would recommend, purely because it takes a lot of time to get traction. And I know people that have done really well with this. For example, Salt, which went into a hyper competitive market of hydration, but they've done really well with organic content. But I won't get into why that is, but just know that they're very good at content creation and they could pull the lever very quickly, and that's why it grew so quickly and worked so well. With paid ads is actually the way that I would recommend for anyone to start their brand, and that's purely because you can validate the idea very quickly. You run ads, you look at how much it costs to acquire that person and how much they left on the table, how much they paid you, and that's it. The difference between that is the profit that you make, which in theory sounds incredible, but finding winning ads, especially ones that scale, is another thing entirely, quite hard. But cool. Obviously, there are many other problems that you're going to face in this type of business. It's not something that is easy, but the reason why I like e-com so much is because of the scale that you get to. And just look at Grunts, for example, which is a brand that was acquired by Unilever for 1.2 billion. That's a sale of 1.2 billion, and they got there in 3 years, very short space of time. Obviously they knew what they were doing and they managed to scale very, very quickly, but that's the idea, just quick and great scale effectively. Obviously you've got many problems, like traffic is the first one, but then you've got conversions. Maybe people are going to your website but they are not converting, looking at the reasons to do that. Retention, content at scale, profitability. Anyway, there's a million other problems that come with scale that honestly, it's really easy for you to think that these are easy problems to solve, but they are very complicated. But that's just like any business. I've had agencies before, I've had brick and mortar businesses. So every business has problems. The thing is that there's a lot of information on how to solve them for e-com. So it's a great business model. When it comes to scaling, so if you've already done your first sale, whether you're drop shipping, whatever, it doesn't matter. There's only three ways that you can actually grow the business. Any business, not just e-com, but e-com is the same. The first one is to acquire more customers. The second one is to get customers to buy again. And the third one is to get customers to spend more, which is kind of the same as getting customers to buy again. But in this, I've split this so that it's related to average order value and not just a repeat purchase. So average order value is just, when you've got, instead of people spending £50, they spend £100. That's your AOV. So yeah, so these all work together, and you need to get hit the sweet spot of them working really well, and that's when you get like a lot of scale and it works incredible. So yeah, so those are the 3 levers that you can pull. Obviously, at first you're trying to acquire new customers, but then you get into retention and average order value problems. And then the third thing is your ad account structure. If you're going to run ads, then you want a place where you can test new ads, and then another one where you can scale those ads at an efficiency cap or cost, which is how I like to do things. And many philosophies here. I'm just following one that of someone who's a lot better than me ad management, which is effectively the classic ABO for testing and CBO for scaling. So you've got an ad set budget optimization campaign where you test different ideas and see which one works at the key target indicator that you've set. And then another campaign where you've got all your winning concepts that go in there, and you try to get as much scale of that as possible with your target KPI in mind. So yeah, so you've got like the testing and scaling, and in the scale phase, what I think is the hardest thing, and the hardest thing that I had to learn, is that you don't know what you don't know, and that's the worst thing. Like being able to diagnose what the problem is part of the solution. And obviously there's so much information available on YouTube that there's conflicting advice, some CBO, and you don't have the system in place to ensure that you actually get a feedback loop of learning and growing the account. And that's typically the hardest problem to solve. And obviously cash flow gets tight. You get into a host of problems that are like incredibly annoying. But in theory, this is kind of how everything works. And obviously, if you don't know who I am, my name is Joe. I founded this community more as a way for people to be together and talk about like things that happen in e-commerce and how they're scaling, what they're finding that works, what they're finding that doesn't work. Mainly because scaling is really hard, is one of the hardest things, and having people around you makes it a lot easier. I spent loads of money. Anyway, enough about me. There's no point. But if you want to find a community of people that are actively scaling brands and that I'm helping kind of guide them through the noise of what it's like scaling a brand, then you can join the community, and hopefully I'll see you there and we can start scaling together. Hopefully you find this helpful. You can find this in the community as well, so you can go and look through the tabs at your own time and kind of identify the problems that you have and why they are working or not working, and hopefully I can help you. So yeah, see you inside the community.